Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monday Live. Joined once again by Nick Srixon, one of our fitters here, who very kindly has stepped in for Stuart being on holiday again. On holiday. He's actually doing coaching down in the south of Spain, but it sounds like a holiday really, doesn't it?
He's out of the country, so...
Out of the country, therefore
I don't feel that sorry
definitely
for
a holiday. Yeah. So thank you again for joining us.
Pleasure.
It was good feedback from last time, so we thought, well, get you back on.
Third
People like seeing
time,
you.
lucky to get me off, maybe.
Never know. But a horrendous weekend weather-wise here.
Yes.
So we are well and truly into winter season, which is quite sad, really.
I didn't play golf.
No.
Shock.
I did, actually.
Did you?
I did,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought I might just go up to the club for breakfast and a chat and ended up being 18 holes.
Oh,
so,
wow. Well played.
So
Fun in the
lots of
wind?
It was quite fun, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was playing a few shots, just playing, imagination-wise, really
Yep.
quite enjoyable. I think
Yep.
you go out going, I don't care what score it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of friendly four-ball match play, and actually it's quite fun playing in that kind of wind. So,
Yeah.
and we didn't get soaked. Bonus.
That is a bonus.
So, Lexi Thompson,
Yep.
final event of her full-time career. It's quite interesting, it's the full-time career bit, because she's back in 2 weeks, I think, playing the pairs. I think
Yeah.
it's the pairs event she's going to
Yeah.
play in. I think Lexi's been maligned over the years due to a few short putts missed or a bad chip here or there. I think she's done a lot for the women's game and actually achieved a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
But I think she's been a little harshly treated over the years, personally.
Yeah, I think if you look at, she's been a top player for a long, long time. Obviously came out with a big reputation. For me, she was one of the first girls to come on tour who brought the power game with her as well.
Yeah.
Obviously was noticeably more powerful and longer than some of the other girls out on tour, and started taking on some of those, the par fives and et cetera, and she brought a different element to the women's game, I think. And arguably she is better tee to green than she is around the greens, but then there's several guys on the guys tour who are very similar, we could probably name, but I think she's been a bit hard done to over the years, but good player, she's had a great career.
I think the amazing
Could've been
thing
better.
is how long her career's been and how young she still is.
I know.
It shows how young she was when she went out on tour. I think she
Yeah.
first played US Open aged 11.
Yeah.
I think ridiculous. I barely knew it.
A prodigy,
end of
to
a
be
club
honest.
to hold at that
Yeah,
point.
a prodigy, and she has had a good career no matter what anybody says. And maybe she could have done more, but I mean, it's always easy to say that from the armchair, isn't it? So.
And obviously, Charlie, sadly, not quite as strong a last round, but a great showing again. Again, consistency just showing week in, week out. Again, very impressive. A young winner down in Australia. That end of the ladies' season in the States and now the start of the DP World Tour season.
Yeah.
Held off some big names, Cam Smith and Mark Leishman.
Great story, actually. Apparently attended the Cam Smith junior camps.
It's got to make him feel old, doesn't it?
Growing up, and obviously looks up to Mark Leishman and Cam, so to beat them on home soil as well. Huge title, great name, love the name.
I was going to say Elvis Smiley. Yeah,
a great name.
On both counts.
Absolutely.
What was fascinating, and I think the Australian courses are great, is seeing all the undulations, the drop-offs at the side of greens, which gives you a chance to, one, it's a bit of kind of risk-reward going for pins, but some of Cam Smith's up and downs on the last day, just spectacular.
Well, and Elvis as well. I think he actually said in his post-game interview that actually it was a short game that kept him in it. Didn't hit the ball as solid as he wanted to final round, but again, that's where if you've got that creative short game in and around those sort of greens, you can really play some great shots, and he did, and he held it together coming down the stretch. So
it's just a shame Oz is so far away. I'd love to get out there.
The courses, I've never been out there. The courses
you've got to go for
phenomenal.
a month, haven't you?
Well, if you insist.
Yes. Well, the wife might not insist. And as you just mentioned, Maverick McNealy. First win at Sea Island. Great venue.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years. I think he's been on tour now. Obviously came up again, big reputation.
They're all in woolly hats this week out there. It must have been all of 15 degrees.
I really feel sorry for the guys, Ludwig Aberg back on tour again. That's good to see from a European perspective. Won there last year, so I think he was kind of
dominated last year.
I think he was about mid-table, but good to see him back on the golf course again, because we want him strong for next year. So
absolutely, right. So that's the main roundup. We might as well crack on straight into the questions. We've already got quite a few come in, so thank you for all the inputs. So, Jake Debenham, similar shafts to a Dynamic Gold 105 S300.
Similar shafts to it. Well, I mean, if you're looking at the 105 category, then you're looking at your Modus, your NS Pro, you'd probably put in there as well, potentially.
Or the 1050.
The 1050, yeah. Then you've also got some of your Project X's now that they do a 105 sort of, nothing identical to S300 105, but if that's the weight range that you want to play in, and then you want to try and move balance point up and down the shaft, then they'd be the good place to start. So Project X,
the IO.
The IO would definitely
Have you got
be
deep
one.
pockets, the Axiom 105?
If you fancy going down the route of something more
feel.
composite, yeah, absolutely, definitely. It depends what you're trying to, with the question, I don't know what the, was it
Just
Jake,
similar shafts.
Similar shaft, yeah, it depends what you're trying to achieve with it, I guess.
So the 105's fairly tip weighted.
Yeah.
So anything, unless it's a C-taper light and a regular, anything KBS is higher balance. So the Modus 105 definitely is a good counter there. And so Axiom 105 or even the MMT in the 105, they've got the balance right down the bottom.
Yeah, so if it's balance you're after,
yeah.
If it's performance, then yeah, some different balance points there you could have a bit of a play with, yeah, absolutely.
Bipinda Bogle, great, good evening guys. A pleasure to see you this morning, Simon. Impressed my friend with your knowledge and expertise when doing his iron fitting. Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Bipinda's next one and then I'll loop back to John Puckett's question. So Bipinda said, my question is regarding golf balls. In winter conditions with the lower temperatures, would you recommend changing from using a premium ball such as a Pro V1 to a lower grade, e.g. AD333 Srixon? We say lower grade, putting softer core. Do you think the average golfer would see any benefits, or should we stick to the ball we're best used to all year round? Actually, two really good points in there. I think being used to a ball is definitely a good thing. I would say being used to any kind of golf ball versus how hard you've got to hit chips and putts and things this time of year in the UK, I think being used to the ball and the condition changes kind of outweighed by the fact they're so different.
Yeah.
Arguments both ways. I think a softer core ball and a harder cover, if it's going to plug in a fairway and you lose it because it's plugged in a fairway, it hurts less because it costs less. And any ball's going to stop on the greens in the softer winter conditions. So from that point of view, I think you can get away with playing a Vodacom's lesser golf ball.
Depends what you're looking for from it, really. I mean, obviously, your softer compression balls, as we know from all the resets now, they're not as quick in terms of from the core, but with the lower compression comes a lower spin. So if it's something where you feel like you're generating a bit too much spin, and maybe if somebody rips it back off the greens with a wedge potentially, then maybe moving to something where you don't get as much spin in the wedges might be a good option. They're always going to chip slightly different, the lower compression Surlin balls, than a urethane. It just doesn't sit on the face quite the same way. So take that into consideration as well.
I'm only smiling because the way I chipped yesterday, there was one I just dug the leading edge into the ground. So it didn't matter what material it wasn't going anywhere. It's the other joy of winter golf.
But they are going to noticeably play a bit different more. Yeah. So I would say round the greens, actually. Off the tee, I think it depends how much ball speed you're pumping.
Yeah, I think it's going to be if you're high speed going to a lower compression ball, you're going to lose spin. The spin's going to go up. You're going to overload the core. And I think this is back to your point, which is a great one that we get asked a lot, and one of the biggest misconceptions. People think lower compression ball, it loads, kicks more ball speed. It doesn't work like that. If you think about it, if the ball's compressing, it's deforming more, you're losing energy. You want the ball to recover its shape as quick as possible. So a harder core actually creates more ball speed. It's just that the harder core generally has a grippier cover on, which means more side spin, which means more backspin if you're inefficient strike-wise, and therefore shorter yardage, whereas the harder cover doesn't grip the face, so it just keeps going forwards.
Yeah.
So big kind of misconception there.
Hurts a little bit less when you lose one in the leaves, obviously.
Oh yeah, that's it. I nearly did Saturday.
Yeah,
sure,
easy
I
enough
could see
to
it
do.
walking up to it, then got there and went, hang on, where's it gone?
Yeah, easy enough to do this time.
A gust revealed it. So. But great question, Bipinda. Yeah. John Puckett, love the show, guys. Thank you very much. Wedge works versus standard SM10. If I play an 8-degree M grind, should I go for an A+ grind or move up to a V grind with 10 degrees bounce? What would the difference be between the SM10 M grind and the wedge works? There are several alternative wedge works grinds that are just starting to creep in. So essentially the wedge works stuff which is tour proven, some variations on the standard grinds that the tour players play that they can then sell for more money most of the time, but actually that they're coming into the mainstream now. So the A+, yeah. The A+ is it's kind of like it's not dissimilar from a low K. It's not quite as wide. It's sort of take an M grind and flatten it off. So that one, if you play on tighter, firmer turf, that's going to just nip in or winter where there's no sand or harder sand, that's going to nip into the back of the ball, nip into the ground a little bit more. The V grind's actually
higher bounce.
Yeah,
but more aggressive in terms of it's more forwards. Yeah.
It's an aggressive L grind, really, isn't it? Where you've got a kind of a heavier front-loaded bounce and then it aggressively cambers off the back edge.
Yeah.
So again, if you open the face a lot, it facilitates. It's like actually one of the old pin grinds. It's really heavy grind on the back edge. It facilitates really opening it up, but you keep a bit of grind on the front. So the more similar to the M grind is the A+. The V grind's a very different beast.
Yeah.
So it really depends on your technique and
somebody maybe I'd say likes to play with a bit more front edge, hands forwards. V grind could be quite nice for them, and then but they like to also open up quite a lot in bunkers. V. A grind if you're playing on firmer conditions, which I mean over here in the UK definitely isn't something we have to worry about this time of year. So
well, maybe if you get one of those little mats you can take out on the course.
But I think the A grind came from Jeff Ogilvy, asked for an A grind from Aaron Dill years and years ago because he was playing down in the sand belt in Australia.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it came from. So I think if you're playing in those sort of conditions, perfect. But in the UK, I think you'd have to be pretty good with your hands.
This time of year, that's just got fat written all over it. One thing that actually we didn't mention earlier on, which we must mention, is our very own Kate Davey. Went out to Hong Kong for the second High Rocks Major of the year. And anyone that knows Kate knows that she generally puts in about 1,000% effort. And so this time she finished third, so podiumed at Elite 15, which got her a World Championship place, and incredibly proud of her. It's a great achievement. The fact that she could go over there and function without getting horrendously jet lagged, and then Kate being Kate, landed back Sunday morning, did a 2-hour workout, just to make her feel more normal after the flight. But no, congratulations to Kate. It's a wonderful achievement, and I was saying to James earlier on how on the box we've got, which has got from the World Championships last year, where Kate qualified in one of the Verticome's last chance. I'm going to put a bet on that's motivated her to qualify in one of the majors rather than having to rely on a last chance. And to do it second time out, fantastic.
Yeah.
So
finish
brilliant.
on the podium
Well
is phenomenal effort.
Well done. Simba Smith, good evening, gents. Good evening. What are your thoughts on single/combo length irons that Avoda offer?
Well, I haven't hit the Avodas personally. I know they've got a lot of bulge and roll on them. Interesting concept. In terms of single length, my opinion on those full stop would be, and I know we've spoken about this as a company before. I think if you're in the sort of speed range that Bryson is, I think you can play with a 4-iron at 6 or 7 iron length. But quite honestly, most amateurs don't have enough velocity or ball speed, club head speed to play a 4-iron or a loft of 21, 22 at that length, in my personal opinion. And whenever I've seen anybody come into the bay and hit them, I've never felt like they're able to generate the launch and the spin to really make it work. I think in essence it sounds a great idea, but I think it falls down in a couple of different areas. And I think even Bryson's, his setup is differed over the years because he struggled with his wedges. The other way around, he was struggling with distance control on his wedges. So
yeah, I mean the principle. I mean with Avoda, they've got a single length and a kind of a slight kind of the combo length is from, I think it's 8 iron down. It's a single length. The principle being lighter heads, more speed, more spin. So in theory, more stopping power. But as you alluded to, I think the one thing for most golfers, the thing we see in any gapping, any combine test, is that people hit their pitch wedge better than their 7-iron. So unless you're the ability of someone like Bryson, getting that consistency and flight control, you don't get angle of attack progression, swing plane progression on single length. So that's where in the shorter irons, the control, hence Bryson making his wedges shorter, that's where it struggles a bit. You know, Avoda do the single length into normal length progressions to gain the swing plane change, the club speed progression in particular they talk about. So I think the principles are interesting. To have that much boulder and roll on an iron, I'm not convinced there's as much of a difference as you're going to see on the woods. But there's still gearing on them, so it's got to have some effect.
From the pictures I've seen, they're very compact heads, actually. So I think you've got to be quite an accomplished golfer to actually hit them in the first place. The other thing is Bryson's got such a unique setup. You talk about the grip size and weight that he uses. Then I think he's 7 degrees upright, lie angle.
Yeah, very upright.
He uses a very unique technique in his golf swing, and then he's also got very, very light heads down the bottom to compensate for the length.
Very heavy grips as well.
So, there's an awful lot going on there, which you can't always say that's going to fit everybody. If you're buying into that way of moving the golf club, then yes, but it's very, very niche.
Yeah.
So.
We've got a load of questions.
Okay, all right, let's rattle on.
We're doing deep dives and things, but actually, by the looks of this, we better crack on. Josh Gunton, Josh, great to see you. Love your work, guys. Thank you very much. My question this week is on how to use lead tape effectively, e.g., how to bring down the flight, help a right to left shot, etc. Also, when would you add lead tape on the shaft? Big myth about adding a bit of lead tape on the toe or the heel, or forward on the head, back on the head on a driver, changing ball flight. You've got to use a minimum of 10 grams, minimum. On a driver head, you're looking at 4 to 5% of the mass if you're using 10 grams. So driver heads went from 4 weights to 3 weights to 2 weights to 1 movable weight because they worked out that moving 6 grams across a quarter of the head made no difference. You've got to be moving a lot of weight a long way to affect the gearing, and it's really affecting gearing around strike point, not the recovery rate of the head. The drawbars heads are moving 25, 30 grams of weight internally in order to achieve the kind of toe rotation that you're alluding to with lead tape. Just not going to make a difference in that respect. Lead tape on the shaft?
I haven't done it personally with anybody. I know we've got a client, Dave Langley, who is very precise on his swing weight and does like to move it up and down the shaft, but I think since then we've actually built a set for him and he doesn't do that anymore.
And we'd do the equivalent of what you'd be doing with lead tape, we'd be doing with a hard step. So it's one of those where as long as you're adding it across I've actually done this for a client from Hong Kong, mark the balance point of the shaft. As long as you're putting it on the balance point, then you could add a few grams and technically it really fine tunes the dead weight. But in my opinion, that's all you should be needing to do. If you're doing more than that, the club's wrong in the first place.
Yeah, I still think the shaft weight and the balance and everything should be. We've got enough shafts here, certainly at PG, to be able to do that via shaft, I would have thought, rather than.
And that's potentially why you might see someone doing it, is that we've got the luxury of having several hundred shafts on the wall. We can go, no, that's a little too heavy, a little too light, and we can maneuver it around by going between the models or up and down between the flexes, and hence the soft step and the hard step. So if you don't have that facility, then I guess
potentially, absolutely. If you're very, very sensitive to swing weight and dead weight, absolutely,
Papa B, hello young men. Could you please hit the Mizuno Pro 245 with the DG 120S and the Dollar Taper 120 and compare them? You're the best. Well, it's very kind. Anyone tuning on this channel is definitely the best person rather than us. Are you going to hit this one or shall I?
You hit away. Go on. You're warmed up.
I was. I am warmed up.
And this is one that we baked earlier.
We may have pre-seen this one coming in. So going to start with the DG 120. So they are obviously the dead weight's very, very similar, but they are quite different shafts from the way they swing.
That's a D1 measured out on the scales.
Got it.
In terms of swing weight, same length, 37.5 inches.
Right. That's the problem. If you warm up, you cool down as well. So I mean the 245 has been a really good overall head. Not silly low spin for the kind of hollow body construction.
27 degrees of loft on it.
A little thin, but you definitely feel the lower half of the club. It's not a thin to win, clearly. You get a little bit of responsiveness back from the handle end with this. So some of that you get feel for the bottom end and the club through the balance point as well. But the DGs aren't a harsh setup. There we go, it's a better hit.
So that's the DG you got there. That's D4, that one's swinging actually.
Right. Have you got
the wrench? There we go. Sorry,
Interesting,
DG, so that was swinging at D4.
Interesting D4. It didn't fit, I wouldn't have put it quite at D4. But let's say we would use that shaft to get the balance down the bottom end. So you get a bit of feedback from it because the handle end's not overly stiff.
This is swinging at D1.
Got it.
So there is 3 swing weights in the difference between them.
Slip that on Thank you.
The weight, the dead weight of the shafts is the same at 120.
Yeah, so this you could definitely feel the masses under the handle, and the pickup's very different. Dollar taper designed around a bit of a lower spin flight, so stable through the midsection. Definitely feel, yeah, it's handle heavy, I would describe it. So almost the pickup almost feels like a heavier dead weight, but maybe because I'm feeling the head more on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so to swing it really noticeably different. You can really feel like I can whip the bottom end through much more easily.
Yeah.
So this is closer to the shaft that I play from a balance point. I mean, in terms of did that change the spin much?
I didn't grab the spin on it, but it was a.
But had a bit more, well, a little bit more drop. It's gone.
Did, yeah.
I absolutely nuked that one.
It went over the top of the green there.
But yeah, really, and much more stable here. So the bit that your hands sense, if you're someone who feels the shaft, this is going to feel a bit tighter, but less than the bottom end to respond to. Yeah, so suits me a little bit more just because of the way I move the club.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, it's just producing design-wise, it's designed to produce a slightly flatter flight, and just bringing that spin down a little bit more. Where is it on that one? 4.9, so not silly low, and that's the nice thing with this head.
Yeah,
it's got a bit of help and a bit of pop to it, but it's not a knuckleball on spin. So
I think based on where the loft is at 27 for yourself, that's kind of where I expect spin to be.
Yeah, I'd struggle to get
nice strikes actually.
I
was impressed with your striking there.
You want to read some?
Yeah, I can do. So where did we get to there? Papa B, thanks for the question. The left rough. If you have time, can you hit
where those ended up as well?
the ZX7 versus Pro 243 with the Modus 120? I know we had a problem with this one.
Yeah, so ZX7 we've actually taken out of our demo matrix because some of the stock is then diminishing, so we can't get, for example, 9-iron heads from them. So there's no point us keeping it in the demo matrix because we now can't sell those clubs. So we've actually taken that out, so I can't do that comparison for you.
Really?
But in the new year, when the new model's out, that will be certainly one to basically send the same question in the sort of second half of Jan, and we'll be able to do that for you.
Second question, actually from the same client, or same follower, I should say. When you guys grind the peak down on an M grind, is there any wedge that has a similar stock grind across all of the other brands, basically? So he wants to know M grind it down a little bit. Anything else as a stock option?
As a stock option, I mean, the Z grind on the Callaways isn't a million miles off. That is only coming on the platinum of the Opus wedges, but that's got that same. It's got a little bit of beveling front and back and a flatter top to it. Probably sits you'd have to grind the M down a reasonable bit, I would say.
Yeah.
For that.
C grind on the new Opus, maybe potentially.
Yeah, a little more back edge. Got a reasonable bit of back edge relief.
Yeah.
What else?
Obviously, you got the.
Oh, there's I want to say B grind from Ping.
Yeah.
That'll be the other one.
The back edge, a bit flatter through the middle section.
Yeah, a little more like that A plus we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think that's where that question might have come from, actually. James Denny, I'd like to ask about Trackman. How much slower does the clubhead speed appear on Trackman as compared to the GC Quad? I used to use GC Quad and want to make sure all my numbers are relative now using Trackman.
I was going to say, well, you used to install systems for both. Then, so.
I'd probably say, if anything, there's probably 2 to 3 miles an hour potentially between the clubhead speeds from Trackman to Quad. Trackman probably be on the lower side, Quad being on the slightly upper side of that. Therefore, when you're hitting on them, typically you'll also see the smash factors will be lower on a Quad GC as opposed to Trackman's.
I mean, we did a test when one of our other fitters was with us. He had a quad, and the ball speeds and the spins were nigh on identical. Yeah. Given the tolerance, given like a fraction percentage tolerance on them.
Yeah.
The algorithm on a distance, the quad is more generous, because I know what it said I could carry driver, and I couldn't carry driver that far at that point. Yeah. There's about a 10-yard differential.
Yeah.
But that's just the algorithm rather than the data set on the ball is as good as identical.
Yeah, I think the clubhead data, both of the companies would say they're taking their data at different points. Yeah. So you could argue with both. They're both very good.
Both great again, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Dennis Smith, do you guys fit for Wilson product and thoughts on 585 PC irons?
Wishon. I was going to say Wilson.
Oh, Wishon, sorry, my mistake.
Currently, no. We haven't got them in at the moment. I mean, the Wishon products are very solid, but in terms of, for us, the amount of demand that we would have, there's just not enough demand for us to have them in the matrix. They're solid products. There's a lot of backup in terms of, Tom Wishon's designs have been in goodness knows how many top-end brands. So there's always really good function behind them. I would need to just double-check the exact model to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting an answer to be able to give you an answer. But the Wishon products are really solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, Andrew Homments. Hi lads, is it common to have the same grip setup across all of your clubs? I've got my irons and wedges with 3 wraps on CPX grips. Will the woods end up being the same when fitted?
I know we'd all advise continuity through because it's your only point of contact with the club. So only in very specific circumstances would some players like a thinner grip on wedges to feel like they can get it in the fingers and zorro it around a little bit more. I know some players, we've put a slightly bigger driver grip on just to stabilise a little bit, but a lot of it's feel.
Yeah.
Obviously your hands are the same size, so the way the grip sits in your hands is the same. So
yeah.
I would generally advocate consistency over anything else.
I mean, I play MCC Align +4 in my irons, but I do play just standard MCC in the wedges because I just don't want that Align when I'm opening the face up. And they're slightly thinner, if anything, maybe one wrap less. So I guess I do answer that in terms of I do play it slightly different in the wedges. But it's all personal preference, really.
Yeah, so that the rib or the Align in the wedges would be something that some people wouldn't want. I keep it on. I play the Calibrate in the Lambkins, and I feel it gives me a couple of reference points to put it in my hands. I just kind of got used to it. I think.
Yeah, such a personal preference, that one. Absolutely. Kevin Phillips, no question. I just wanted to tell you that what's in the bag so far is great. Hearing why in long form is important and insightful.
Thank you very much. I mean, when Mark's on any video, it's long form. So it's
insightful.
His bag has, stories and stories.
Great.
I mean, we could have done a week's worth on that. But no, we will certainly be doing more of those. Thank you for the feedback. They're good fun to do, and we will be doing a series. It's just how kind of regularly we put them into the video mix. But every fitter. And at some point, by some stage, every employee who actually plays will have their what's in the bag done.
I get a what's in the bag off Mark every week.
Well, and Nick Chulman, our other fitter, I mean, he's given up. The product launch time is a nightmare for him because he must be so torn with which new shiny new things to add to the bag. So,
he is.
Might have to do 4 of them through the year.
Chris Burgess, the Yorkshire Blade TYB, looking at 3 and 5 wood for next season. Any advice? Currently playing TSR 3. 9-degree driver and Cobra blades. So the advice would depend on what you're wanting to see different from your TSR3. So if you can add what you'd like to, if there's anything you're struggling with them or a difference you'd like to see out of them. The only thing at the moment is we'd have to tell you based on what's currently out because we can't tell you about the stuff we've seen that's coming because we're under embargo. But let us know what you'd like to change if there's anything specifically, and we'll route round to that a little bit later on. mblast49, hello from LA.
Yeah, good morning.
Always played heavy shaft irons and woods as it's helped me keep my tempo in sync. Suggestions on how to go lighter shafts with lighter overall club weight while still keeping tempo.
I think realistically, I would tend to say that a noticeable difference in terms of shaft weight, it can be as little as 5%. 5 or 6 grams, it sounds like a really trivial amount, but that can be enough to make it feel like you haven't got to work quite as hard, but without losing the sensation of the club or the feel for the club. I
mean, arguably, you've just shown it there with balance point.
Yeah,
both 120.
Yeah.
One of them matched a little bit into technique, but also you found it a lot easier to square up and turn over than the DG.
Yeah. And that one is about 5 or 6 grams heavier than the shaft that I use. So, I would say if there is somewhere near you that has the facility to test some, just try. If you're in let's say a 125 gram shaft at the moment, try 120. I think you'd be surprised at how much difference that actually makes. But keeping the balance point of the shaft and the club the same, keeping swing weight similar, that's going to be the key thing from a timing point of view.
Okay, lovely. Doug, good evening, gents. Simon, have you ever been tinkering with clubs and got lucky with building something, or have you always been a precision builder?
I guess you could argue if you find something that works, you've always got a bit lucky. No, I think I change something if I need to. So I'm not a golf hoarder like some of the lot here, who just say shiny things and want something new. So for example, in the new year, I'm going to change 4-iron head to just get a little bit more flight. So I will be testing around a specific thing that I'm trying to achieve. So that's the way that I will always do it. And unless I see a really tangible difference, I'm not going to change. So I'm very much along the logic, and is it different enough? Is it giving me something noticeably different? Rather than randomly hitting a few things and going, oh, I'd like to know that if I'm going to change it, I want to know why it's right, rather than just hitting something and go. If it works once, it could be fluke. If you go back to it and it works again, then yeah. So there's always a reason coming out that I'm interested to test as well. So.
There's always a reason for it, right? But even still, you would still want to have it pured and built to the best spec you can possibly get for it in terms of the playability of it. So even if I had something and I found a stock option shaft was a nice option, I'd still want to bring it in here and get the boys to rebuild it for me. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So if we root down, if you find Chris's comment, is it right there? Oh, we are going to have to crack through.
Yeah.
Well, we've got half an hour.
3 wood off tee and 5 wood on fairway.
Okay. So, I mean, certainly TSR, not that forgiving. Strong flight off a tee, probably a pretty good head. You may not, for the 3 wood, you may not find anything, if you're wanting to similar strength of flight, you may not find anything that's that much better. Off the deck, I mean, certainly of the current ones, GT3 is going to be far better low on the face than TSR3. So you get a bit more launch without too much more spin. I'm trying to think of. I can't tell you what I like to based on what I've seen, but there are a couple that could be quite interesting. But TSR is a good head, so it's more ease of use than a stronger ball speed or a stronger flight. I think.
Yeah. New GT woods definitely worth a hit. I think
they've been a really good upgrade. Yeah,
absolutely, definitely.
So tune in the new year when we can release the data on the new stuff, and then we'll be able to tell you more.
Simon Langford, evening guys, always a great show. A playoff 3. What would be the main reason for why I'm catching my irons a touch fat?
There could be a number of things. It could be from an equipment point of view, dead weight or balance out. That's just going to get you and the club a little out of sync. It can be a little light, and you can kind of let go of the club too soon. If it's a little heavy, it can drop underneath. But it could be a technique thing. If you're getting a little too far from the inside, or you're getting a little lateral, if you're moving your hips forward, and that can drop the club underneath. So there are a number of reasons So unfortunately, we've got to give a blanket set of answers rather than it'll be one of these two.
Could be numerous things there actually.
Liam Hancock, hi gents, graphite versus stealing driving irons. Swing the graphite a little quicker but lose control.
This is an interesting one. So Nick Chulman sent me a link to the data changes from what's in the bag in Australia. And the changes, a lot of them were in like a 3-iron. There were a lot of hybrid shafts, 95 or 105 gram hybrid shafts in 3-irons or driving irons. The nip on the Ghost in some, and a few have their iron shaft in it. You can lose control by going to a graphite purely if the balance point's off. You can lose feel of the head. So it may just be needing to increase head weight to get the swing weight up. I've always found, I don't know about you, I've always found up until now I've had to match my driving iron shaft to my irons because I just lose the timing from a lighter shaft. But it is a trend we're seeing on tour. They're all, if they're using them, it's more an off the tee club, and does the hybrid shaft allow them to create a bit more speed and flight maybe?
Yeah, for me personally, timing wise, I use the same shaft as in my irons. So KBS Tour V 120X. And I use that on my 3-iron as well. And I just found when I go anything lighter, it throws my timing off. And actually, my dispersion, like Liam, starts to move around a little bit.
I mean, if I've seen anything, I'd go a softer flex and therefore a lighter version of the same shaft. Might kind of drop down 7 or 8 grams. That's certainly a route they're doing a little bit more. However, we're doing fewer and fewer of them. We're going more into a lofted wood or more into a lofted wood than a driving iron for a lot of players now with how low spin products are. So I think the driving iron may become the preserve of the links player or the power player, and we may find ourselves using more lofted woods and then hybrids to gain flight a bit. Although the hybrids have, I think they were kind of like 0.16%. in the bag.
Yeah.
High
ball
many
speed
more
players.
driving irons or lofted woods.
More versatility, I guess.
Danny Stilwell, hi gents, coming from hybrid fitting in a couple of weeks, currently playing a TaylorMade RBZ and hoping to try out the Ping G430. What main differences do you think you'll see?
Well, one of them's a cannon.
I was going to say, those are the hottest things on the planet. Although we have got an RBZ in the cupboard with the face that's caved.
Okay.
Look, RBZ was a great head, but with just low spin. 430 is not high spin.
No.
But should pick the launch angle up a little bit
Comparatively, absolutely, and arguably a little bit more forgiving now across the face just because of the materials being used.
And adjustable, so you can change the lie and things on it as well. So a bit more versatile, a bit better across the face.
Can't promise we can beat it distance-wise though.
Even now I see those things like the Fairway, which you think, almost for 10 years they were impossible to beat. You see one come in and go.
Yeah, it's just whether they can get it off the deck or not.
Vanners 007. What's the equivalent to a Velocore without the price tag? I have 100 mile an hour club head speed and want a mid-launch shaft for a 13 handicap golfer. Thanks.
Let's think. I mean, so the purpose of the Velocore is stability.
Exactly.
So low spin. Yeah. So if you're if we're talking about kind of that's going in the 60s range, Open Devotion's a lot of shaft for the money.
Great shaft.
That's a great shaft, and you could tip it up a little bit just to tighten it up a bit. That would be my kind of first port of call. Let's think, and I guess it probably kind of more like the blue.
I didn't say which.
I mean, in terms of what else, Acra GX.
Yeah.
The balance point's a little bit different, but again, there's a lot of stability on those for the money.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, the VRTXs. Depending on
weight point's different on those.
And what you're trying to compare it to.
Yeah, the blue, the bounce point's higher on the VRTX blue than the Ventuses.
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing with that. But for me, the GX or the Devotion.
Yeah, Devotion would be a great shout.
Yeah, definitely. John Brennan, evening all. What alternative shafts would Simon suggest for the Ping Outer CB AWT 55 reg? I have these in the I230s, but not a lot of feel of where the head is. Not a lot of feel for where the head is. Sorry. So in the Outer CB 55 regs.
Light shaft.
Yeah.
For an iron, so it could be dead weight, and there could be a little bit of the bounce point as well. So generally, it's a tough one. If it's alternatives of something similar, you're going to be in another graphite of a similar ilk. I would suggest maybe going a little heavier. They do a 70 gram, I think. Unfortunately, it's one of those where I wouldn't want to give you a definite answer because it would be a total guess.
Depends what build you got as well, bigger grips on them or not.
So there are so many variables that without knowing a little bit more specifically about what you're trying to achieve or seeing any data, it'd be such a guess that it would be irresponsible, sadly.
Chris Bird has just asked us to turn the volume up. Hotel, there you go. He's in a hotel. Tuning in from holiday, fantastic.
Oh.
I love the commitment. Will John, hi guys. I have a relatively high swing speed and always fit into heavy shafts, heavy and stiff shafts. I've always struggled with launch and spin. Found I used a regular shaft and it's completely changed my game.
Well, one of the biggest misconceptions in the game, just because you have a lot of speed doesn't mean you need to play heavy and brutally stiff or brutally structured.
Yeah.
I mean, how you build your speed and where the weight needs to be is the most important thing. Softer doesn't mean high dispersion. If you're lower launch and lower spin, then heavy and stiff it's not going to knock the flight down massively, but it's certainly not going to help you get it through and get elevation. It's more a timing thing than a flex thing.
Yeah, I know the long drive guys are now trying to play the softest frequency shaft they can possibly get their hands on, and then learn how to time it.
I mean, the Acra Shogun Blue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fishing rod.
Yeah.
But those guys are using it.
Yeah, exactly. Just to try and get that bit of kick at the end and really get that extra bit of club head speed out of it. But it is a skill to try and time it at the same time to a certain extent where they're going. Will John, why would this be? Oh, sorry, that was just a follow-on question. Jasper L for Fairway Woods, does changing the loft sleeve alter the efficiency? Is the club optimal when it's in a default setting?
Absolutely not. It's what's right for you. You could have the default setting could be too low a flight and therefore not enough spin, and therefore you could lose carry. It's not going to affect the ball speed off the face because that's the face. So if you've got too much loft, then it's going to spin it a bit more, and you'll lose a little bit of distance for that. But other than that, that's the only thing it's going to affect.
Tony, by the way, evening gentlemen, loving the show as usual. Question please, can the Mizuno 2024 Fly High be bent for loft and lie, and how much by any risks in breakage?
Yes.
Always a risk with a driving iron if you bend it. Yeah.
I mean, the frame of that, it is a harder material than most. I mean, I would say you're unlikely to get, 2 degrees is a heck of a stretch out of that head. It's probably doable, but it's be careful with it.
Yeah.
I think just about doable.
Comes with a warning, I think, that one.
But you may see the finish mark a little bit. You may see a little bit of a kind of a
crack. Well, not a crack,
yeah,
but
crease.
But,
yeah. So proceed with caution.
Lots of tape. Take it easy.
Yeah,
From experience.
Warm it a little bit. Maybe just heat it up if you've got a kind of a heat gun.
Yeah.
Just warm it up a little bit. But even then,
horrible sensation when one goes.
Yeah.
That was part of my initiation. Actually, the guys gave me a club and they went, just go and bend that and see how far you can take it before it goes. It was destined for the bin anyway, the golf club, and anyway, but it's a horrible sensation.
It's one of those where you get the bending bar and you move it, and then it goes, and then you're left with a bit of hosel in the end of the bending bar. So, yeah, horrid.
Yeah, not a good feeling.
Banner number one. Sound.
Good evening, gents. Would stamping on wedges affect any internal function of the wedge?
There are a couple that it would. Generally, if it's your standard Vokey or Callaway or Cleveland RTX, mill grind for no, because it's just a solid lump of metal. However, there are some that have a hollow back or a bit of a plastic coating in certain areas that you might punch a hole in the back if you get it wrong. So the more forgiving ones, like a CBX4 or on the Cobra, the snake bite, there's some sort of cavity style ones, then don't.
Caution.
But the kind of effectively the one-piece blade ones, no problem at all.
Right, good to go. Yeah.
Just don't hit your thumb. James has done that once. Ironically, stamping, I think it was kg on a wedge for someone, and he didn't utter a word. Not a sound came out, which is why I knew it really hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tony, by the way, followed on. He said, this is in question to the bending of the driving iron, and how much would it need to be bent upright to allow for half an inch shorter shaft?
Half a degree. I mean, literally in terms of progression through a set, you're looking at a minimal. At that kind of club, I try it without bending it, but half a degree or so should be fine to move. It just needs a good clamp in order to do it. Yeah.
Tom, hi guys. What's the profile of the KBS Tour 130X? I'm going to put the KBS Tour 130X in my 4 to 9 iron. What do you recommend putting in the 2 iron, the same shaft, or the KBS Hybrid Proto 105X? Big shafts.
I mean,
heavy
massive difference as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the one KBS responsive tip, stable through the midsection, so designed for mid-launch, lower spin, but at that weight, any steel shaft's pretty stout at that weight.
Yeah.
I mean, the Proto Hybrid at the 105, I think.
105X.
Still a stable shaft.
Yeah. Higher balance.
Very different balance point. The 105X will potentially might feel harder because of the amount of graphite in it.
Mm-hmm.
But
they're stiff, yeah.
Yeah, they're really stable.
Yeah.
But you're 25 grams difference, so a very different animal. One's definitely going to be a lot better than the other.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I was fitting, whether I'd go there with those shafts, to be honest with you.
I'd probably be more inclined to look at a KBS 120.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to that kind of weight, just thinking you've got some, maybe something like a steel fiber, 110. If you're going to go, but that's not different enough maybe to the KBS actually. Yeah. So you probably need to go more like a 110, 115. I would say if you're in a 130 in your irons.
Yeah. The left rough. When are the new Srixon iron ZX7 coming out? Do you think? Can you blink twice if they spin more than the Mark II version?
The embargo is 12th. I'll just to go. The embargo is the 12th or 13th of January. I can't remember this. So Ping, Srixon, TaylorMade are all in the embargo dates around then. So product launches will have product to demo and test and pre-order, but release is early Feb. I think it's early Feb. Yeah. Very good.
Chris S, have you tried Trackman Low, is that? Versus Trackman
IO.
4 IO?
So IO, we haven't yet. From our Trackman rep, he basically said that's great for home usage.
Yeah.
Currently, the Trackman 4, because we've got the depth for the ball data, if you're coaching or fitting, currently they say still use Trackman 4. It will no doubt progress towards it. From what I understand, that's the direction that the company's travelling in. So we shall see. But we don't have any issues with this one at all. No. The IO it's in its first format. It will get better and better and better, I would say.
Yeah.
I'll switch it around.
All right, okay.
Otherwise, which one are we on now?
Just right at the top.
Mike T. LPGA Tour, I'm just going to see how many we've got. Not doing too bad. LPGA Tour have more similar swing speeds versus average male amateur. What shaft brands and weights are most commonly played in driver and irons?
See a lot of steel fibres out on that tour. Nelly Corder plays them, sort of 95, 80s and 95s. Yeah. You know, nice stable shaft bit, a bit lighter.
They used to be. I always thought that the ladies used to play shafts way too heavy. In the last 5 years, we've seen so many more, in my own opinion, rather than fact, but my own opinion, more realistic shaft weights being played.
Yeah. And the girls are strong. You know, they hit a good ball.
I think Charlie's in a Modus 120.
Yeah, you know, and that's a great shaft to make complete sense based on her speed. Definitely a little bit more of commonality to amateur golfers and the good amateur golfer, certainly. But a lot of steel fibres out there. Seen a few KBS TGIs. Graphite option, a good stable shaft as well. And in the woods, a whole mixture, but some lighter Ventus in there.
Yeah, some lighter Ventus. I've seen more of that. They're generally, there's quite a mix. We're seeing more in that kind of mid to upper 40s.
Yeah,
like Vanquish.
Vanquish
is a big one that's been. That was Nelly's played that.
Nelly plays that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think, as you say, I think they've nailed down that weight now, and the stability is good at that bottom end weight as well. So the girls want all that control still, and they're able to get that now with the lighter weight shafts as well. So I think just as the market's getting better, it's given them the options now as well in the market, which is great to see. Yeah, definitely.
Stu Brister, good evening. Hope you're well. Evening both. Hope you're well. Repeated question to one another. With the strong wind this week, what's your go-to shot thoughts in those conditions? I struggle to hit the low ball. Cheers. Well, this has got to be a demo, hasn't it? Just because my back's going to stick. Okay. Well, so interesting. I'm going to change the target because I don't want to hit a driving iron over the top into some trees. So let's just pop it onto that. Let's do that. So for hitting it low, it doesn't need to be a driving. For hitting it low in the wind, there are a couple of things. I think one of the things I say is don't change too much. I think it's and I am guilty of this in that I hit the wrong end of a driver on Saturday because I changed setup and then I changed my swing. You're kind of, what are you doing? So keep it simple and don't hit it too hard. That's one of the other aspects. You hit it hard, it's going to spin more. So one of the things that I would do, and I know Stuart, whenever we talked about this, he does it a slightly different way. I do put the ball back a little bit in my stance because if that's standard, this is a 5-iron, standard address position, I do want to catch it a little bit earlier in the arc, so to help create a little bit more shaft lead, but I'm not going to move it back there. So standard position here, I'm moving it back half a ball, maybe an inch maximum. One of the things I also do is I actually open my stance and open the face just a little bit. The path change, the further back you move it, coming more from the inside. So I don't want a square face and a more into out path, otherwise it rips left, which is my miss anyway. But from there, really, you're trying to create a more shaft lean through. So I'm trying to really make sure I keep turning and lead the club face through the ball. Ultimately, that's about it. So standard swing. Looking at kind of, have I got launch angle there? No, I don't have launch angle.
Let's see if 16.
So standard swing would be up there. So I don't know whether you've got launch angle. You see, flight wise, that's up. Generate a reasonable bit of flight height. But then, if I move it back, let's say a little bit back in the stance, make sure I don't shut the face down, and essentially trying to stay on top. So I'm trying to make sure I keep turning through. If you stop turning, the handle stalls and it flips. So ball back a fraction, and then just cover the ball through. So just flatten it down. So you want to make sure you keep rotating through. So you can see that's a much lower, more going ball flight. By squaring off, I've not ripped the hook, which keeps the control onto it, but it's about ball back a little, hands forward, and make sure you keep turning through. Yeah. You don't want to stop on it because then the head flips underneath. So those would be my thoughts.
Launch and spins down a little bit there. It's gone almost the same carry yardage, that one, interestingly, but just on a flatter flight. So
I've always enjoyed wind play. I used to hit down it more and spin it more, and rather than hitting down it more, I've shallowed it out and just de-lofted a bit more with my hands. But that's the general feel. Yeah. So, Chris Burgess. That was the follow-up. Andy JM. Hi guys. Recently I read a winter tip of switching ball between holes and keeping the second ball warm in the pocket. Never a bad idea. Does a warmer ball go further, essentially?
Well, actually, I thought the research was that a colder ball goes further. Wasn't there one of the magazines?
Well, it disappears a cold ball, doesn't it?
Where they threw some balls into a freezer, and then because the core was more solid, it actually went further.
Ultimately, let's face it. By the time you've got your ball out of your pocket, pegged it up, had a practice swing, the temperature's dropped anyway. So. Unless you're carrying around a little microwave in your pocket, or if you've got one of those real kind of heat pack things, it's got to, by the time you're going to hit it, the benefit's basically gone. So I think realistically, my opinion, by the time it comes to hitting the shot,
I think if
it's got blooming cold anyway. If it's that cold, then the temperature's fallen through the floor.
If it's a range ball and it's been sat outside and it's been -4 all night, then probably that's not going to
break your driver face.
Probably not going to move much, but yeah.
Moves received my Diamana TB and tried it out at 45 1/4. Usually play 44. Big right miss was at bay. However, length had strike inconsistent. Brought it down to 44 1/4 and look forward to getting it out again. Yeah, I think that shorter shaft length. In theory, you lose club speed, but if you strike it better, more efficient flight, better ball speed, probably not going to lose much distance.
No. If it influences things like swing weight, then obviously it's going to sit a little bit open, then brings us potentially the heel strike in as well if it's an over length. So I saw one exactly today in the fitting bay, drop length, swing lines improved, picked up club head speed because of that. So actually swung the shorter shaft quicker.
Yeah, when you think how Tiger at his best was a freaking steel shafted 43.5-inch driver. Rory used to be 44 1/4. He's still sub 45 inches. So the best players in the world do not necessarily go longer because strike is so important to efficiency of flight and efficiency of distance. So we'd always advocate shorter than longer.
I think those guys are so good. If longer driver shafts worked, they'd all have them in. Yeah. They'd all have 46 inches in, wouldn't they? Because they're so good.
I think the one that Will Zalatoris a few years back was, he's absolute laser-like with his driver, and it was at Torrey Pines a couple of years back. He went, I think it was an inch longer, went from 44.5 to 45.5. But he's that good that he could make it work and gain the few miles an hour ball speed. I think he picked up about 10 yards. Yeah. But you've got to hit it straighter if you're hitting it further. Just half the time. Yeah. So
the average is still short. Yeah. The average is still shorter length.
Yeah. Martin Williams, hi. Could you hit a Ping G430 3-wood and a Titleist GT2 3-wood in an autoflex shaft, please? Oh, that is doable. That is doable.
Okay. Right. GT2 was it? Sorry.
Yeah. So we've got 5 minutes left, so we'll be able to crack through. We've got a few questions here. We'll get through the questions we've got on screen now, so that's going down to Moves, and we'll do that shot. On another note, it's a few weeks' time, we've got our live on Friday the 20th. I think we've got about 15 or 20 odd people who have sort of signed up to coming in on the day. Feel free to come in for that. We've got 2 great guests. It'll be, unfortunately for you, it'll be me and Stuart again. Henny's hopefully going to be in on that as well. And then 2 other great guests. It's going to be a 2-hour special, some nibbles, some Christmassy items, food-wise, no doubt. And just a great, great fun evening, loads of interaction. If you want to come along, just email either info@james@simon@ or stuart@precisiongolf.co.uk. Let us know, and feel free to book your place. Come on down. It's completely free of charge, and it'll be a lot of fun. And the more barracking, the better. Whilst Nick's just pulling those bits together, I'll just do the next question. Mark Rowley. Hi guys, extreme toe strikes on irons. Trackman numbers good, i.e. path +3, face -2. Path +3, face -2, angle of attack bit light. Shaft's 1/4 inch longer. I'm 5'9", Project X 6.0. Have to address the ball out of the hosel. Scary. Well, I mean, I do the opposite, but if Luke Donald addresses it right out, or basically out the shaft, and if that means you strike it cleanly, then do it. If you strike it cleanly, then shank 3, then think again. But I mean, if your data's all good, if standing closer gives you the strike, then hey, as I say, I get so many questions about my address position being out the other side. If I address it out the middle, then I will pipe it.
I'm the other way. So.
And yeah, Nick's Luke Donald-esque and right out the hosel. So it makes me want to vomit looking at that. But yeah, if it works, do it. If the strike's inconsistent, then there's probably something from an equipment setup point of view. But if it's consistent and moving closer sorts it out, then great.
Ping G430, Autoflex 53.
It sets off the eyes nice, this one, doesn't it? 430, great head, shallow profile, sits nice and neat to the ground. I mean, the Autoflex is designed to have really soft flex, which creates a lot of kick, which basically gives a bit more flight. So I hit one with this, just feel that before so certainly grabs the attention. Yeah, I mean, you can, it's nowhere near the same amount of load as the driver shafts. So for me, I've got to kind of quieten the hands off with that. But yeah, the Ping's just a great all-round head. Very forgiving, sits nice and shallow. I've got a little bit of mat and ball on there, but decent, decent, solid all-round. GT2 Titleist made a big play about making this better low on the face, generate a bit more flight, which certainly is what we've seen. We have seen that so far. I think one of the big pluses for Ping is it's the shallower profile. So if you're someone who kind of wants to feel confident about getting the ball airborne, then it's going to look easier to get under the ball and get it flighted. Would you say, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. Good looking head. Definitely easier to pick off the deck this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ping's probably almost the benchmark in that regard because it's so easy. But definitely this year's GT series, they've definitely made a big play in that part of the market. This is what they wanted.
Yes, they've gone to the composite on the crown to get that CG lower. So it's certainly still a deeper look to the Ping head. Sits almost, so the Ping sits neutrally, but this looks slightly more open, I would say, to the Ping. I've nutted that, but that's picked it up well because I've just struck it really clean. But yeah, it's this is where this has done so much of a better job than TSR. When we were talking about the TSR 3 earlier, that was a bullet, definitely better for someone who tracked it. The GT3, like this, you can collect a little bit more. So I mean, that had better spin because I actually caught the ball first rather than the ground and the ball. But I think generally speaking, the Ping's going to pick the launch up, or if you're shallower through, is going to collect the ball a hair better, but the GT's really caught up pretty close to it this year.
Yeah.
So, and the Autoflex do come in different colours.
They do. That suits you though, that one.
Limited outfits.
Maybe it's true.
That's what I get accused of the whole time. You pick your golf clubs for the belt colour.
Mark Rowley, hi guys, extreme. Sorry, you've done that one already. Andrew Hominant, I play mostly at the Oxfordshire, which is often can be at the mercy of the wind, with my longest iron soon to be a 4. Is there a hybrid wood setup that keeps the ball low-ish with good distance?
There are quite a few. TaylorMade QI10 it's not that low in launch, but it's the Callaways. The Callaway hybrids are absolute cannons. Yeah. Or Cobra, the Dark Speed. That's a low flighted head.
Yeah, so, always been on the lower side, haven't they?
Those three are. TaylorMade's probably the highest launching of those. I'd say the Callaway and the Cobra are the real bombers.
Yeah, the Callaways have always been strong, haven't they? Definitely. Continue to be as well. We've got Dennis Smith. Don't believe the Avoda irons with bulging roll are available to the public.
I mean, it was one that they did with Bryson. I mean, now that LA are going to do some, you wonder how much of that text is going to go there. But
I think it might be though.
Yeah.
I did see something recently. Actually, somebody was reviewing them in one of the from one of the magazines.
Shortly, yeah,
so I think they could be actually in time.
So we've got the last. We're
Yeah.
at 7, so we've got
Daniel
these last 3, and then
Daniel Winterbottom. Hi gents, your thoughts on similar shaft to hazardous RDX red, 70 gram but heavier to reduce the gap in weight between Modus 130.
So hazardous red and the 70. I assume we're talking about a wood shaft. I mean, look, you've got a Ventus Red 8. That'll be one that do it with a softer tip.
Yeah.
I presume it's in a driving iron.
80.
This one.
Oh, is it a?
Well,
I
he
guess
said
that might be
Modus 130, so I'm guessing he's gone 130 in the irons, and then he's gone.
Okay.
He's talking about 70 gram in.
So that'll be the hybrid shaft thing.
Yeah.
Do it. Well, I'm assuming a hybrid shaft.
Yeah.
Although hybrid shaft, you can go all the way up to 105. There are, I mean, plenty of heavier options if it's to match the Modus 130. So a bit of response in the tip.
Yeah.
I mean, the graphic design, the IZ is a 95 gram.
Tensei.
Well, I guess with that we want a bit of flight, don't we?
Yeah.
If you're happy to spend a bit of dough, the TPT in the higher flight.
Yeah.
That
Couple
goes
different
up
weight
to like
categories. You can
98
hit that in as well. Andrew Azorski, hope I pronounced that right. Hey guys, any recommendations for a hybrid shaft at 85 to 90 grams? That's a blue profile. Want something stable and not too stiff.
Oh, you got 85 to 90. You got the Ventus Blue 8.
Yeah.
That's one that sits around really smooth, stable tip end.
I think you said similar to a blue profile. So I presume that's the Ventus Blue he's talking about. So something.
So that would, in principle, that would be a perfect match for that.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah. Morvs, iron shaft questions. Have a DG 120 S200 in my 921 Tours, 5 to pitcher wedge. Picked up an MP20 HMB 4 iron, however, it has a Modus 120S in it. I can't see to get on with it. Do the shafts play drastically different? So that's basically a Modus 120S to a DG 120 S200.
I mean, the Modus 120S is actually 114 grams, so it is 5 or 6 grams lighter. So that's probably where you're finding the difference. It's a little less tip balanced for me, but that dead weight difference will be where you're finding it.
It's a different bit, a bit like what we showed earlier on. The balance can make it a different beast as well. Similar weight, not in that case, but similar weight.
Yeah, and so there's 5 or 6 grams. Yeah, big difference.
And in Charlie March, what's the difference? What's the differences other than weight between X100 and X100 120?
Well, balance point in the 120s is much more in the tip end. They're going to swing very differently from a weight positioning point of view. X100 is very evenly balanced and stiffer through the midsection. 120X proportionally a little stiffer in the tip, but the balance is right down the bottom.
A bit more bottom end, so it's going to be swing weight. Yeah.
That's all the questions, I think.
Completed it. Well done. Well done. I looked at the list earlier on and thought, my God, it keeps going. Thanks so much. And as always, thank you so much for your interaction, for joining us, for your support over the weeks. It's really greatly appreciated. This wouldn't happen without all these wonderful questions coming in.
Good questions again.
So yeah, I mean, the variety of the questions is growing. The variety of the watches is growing. I mean, LA, but it's a bit warmer there than it is here. Thanks so much for all the interaction. We couldn't do it without you. Again, let us know anything you want us to cover in any of the videos. Just give us a like, subscribe, all of the above. But tell us what you want to see. We're more than happy to cover that. We can bring that into the live as well. Thank you again for watching. Have a fabulous week. Next week, I believe Stuart's back.
With a suntan.
With a suntan, yeah. I hope he's burned. No, well, I don't know how much of a suntan in Spain, but yeah. So Stuart will be back next week. Nick, thank you again for joining us.
Pleasure.
Great as always. So enjoyable to chinwag over these things for me as well as hopefully for everyone to watch. So have a great week, and we will see you same time again next Monday. Thanks a lot.